Hello everybody, my name is Kenn Butler. I'm the Head of R&D here at Dandy, and today I'm very excited to host a roundtable. I'm joined by Dr. Solomon, Dr. Joi, and Dr. Spaulding. Today we want to talk about a topic that I have been spending a lot of time thinking about, and that is the trade-off that clinicians have to make when it comes to their fixed restorations. Historically, there is the core components of strength, cost, and quality that comes into play when we're evaluating the materials that are being used for restorations. On the one side of the spectrum, you have quality and aesthetics that can come from feldspathic porcelain and emacs, where you get very beautiful restorations that tend to be fragile. On the other side of that spectrum, you have zirconia, which is historically known to be very strong as a material, but historically has been one that compromised on aesthetics, was monochromatic, was very opaque, and was not something that was historically chosen to be an aesthetic restoration. However, there's been a lot of innovations in the dental space over the past 5 years, and Dandy has played a small part in that, that has allowed us to create materials and create fixed restorations that can combine the best of both worlds. The aesthetics of porcelain and emacs with the strength and cost effectiveness of zirconia. So I'm curious, when you guys are considering treatment planning for fixed restorations, be it posterior or anterior, what's your thought process look like when you're thinking about what material to select for that patient? Ms. Spaulding, you want to take us away?
I am obviously thinking if you're doing anything in the front, you want something more aesthetic. It's very basic. And then if you're going towards the back, you still want it to be aesthetic, but it is less of the defining feature of the crown that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking more strength and quality for posterior things, and I'm thinking more aesthetics, but you still want it to be strong in the front.
Do you ever find yourself in the posterior region wanting to reach for something more metal-based rather than zirconia-based?
Not necessarily. I feel like I have mainly only stuck to zirconia since it has been around.
Makes sense. Dr. Joi?
I have patients who were doing redo. And for that patient, I'm like, okay, let's make it gold. I want it nice and golden, shiny. And some patients, they'll ask for it because that's what they're used to. And I want to give them what they're used to.
Have you ever done gold anteriors?
Yes.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. I want to see one of those. Okay, for your patients that are, let's say, a little easier, or maybe they don't want gold, how do you think about material selection?
I just want to give them something that will last and will look nice. A lot of times people ask me, what color is it going to be? And I just want to assure them that it's going to blend in. It's not going to be like an amalgam filling in the back, just an eyesore.
Very cool. Marcel?
Yeah, I think it has to be driven by the patient's care and wellness. I think part of wellness is having something that looks natural, that mimics nature, and it has to fit together. And part of the aesthetics is also how well it fits into the bite and how well it looks. And I think we also have to think looking forward also, are we going to be restoring more teeth in the same area? So these are considerations when we create a single tooth. Are we going to be doing it as part of a smile, either comprehensively or individually? I always look at strength in the back of the mouth, but it's become zirconia as my go-to. And then anything that's visible up in front, I like to think more aesthetic via lithium disilicate or layered zirconia.
You mentioned that you've been a CEREC doctor for quite some time. For a while, at least my experience with this has been posterior emacs and posterior lithium disilicate. I'm sure you have done tons of those crowns. When did you actually start making the transition to do more zirconia in the posterior versus lithium disilicate?
I think that transition happened as the technology made it more accessible and easier. It takes a lot of time to create teeth in the office. And while it's fun to be your own digital ceramist, to stain and glaze and go ahead and have to design and mill and go through all the steps, it's time consuming in the office. So in terms of the economics, it's the economics of time as much as what we would pay for a lab fee.
And so today, what is your split between CEREC versus non-CEREC, or sending out to a lab?
To be honest, I use the CEREC a lot more for in-house inlays and onlays and quadrants of inlays and onlays when it really works the best for me, where I used to use it for a lot more crowns, for more staining, glazing in the office, for trying the hybrid materials. But I really feel that now it's become just as efficient and more accurate and a finer result with less effort and energy on us in the office to create these restorations. So for inlays and onlays, it's easy. We can scan, we can mill those out, we can do a lot very efficiently. There's no temporaries, there's no second appointment. But for everything else, we've gone back to making more temporaries, and it's things that are delegated to the team.
Makes sense. Now for anteriors, we talked a bit about materials. I'm curious though, when it comes to anteriors, I assume you have your lab for aesthetics and then you have your lab for your bread and butter. How do you think about that decision making? Is it just always, hey, anteriors, I'm always just going to go for the aesthetic and anterior lab? Or are there other factors that in play?
I've mainly been using Dandy for all of my stuff. But I definitely have different products that I'm going to pick for the front. So I definitely do layered. I'll specifically note in the notes at the end, kind of if I'm going for more an aesthetic patient and kind of what my expectations are. And I always get very aesthetic results. So I don't necessarily have two different labs.
When you're talking about patient-specific notes, do you get to the level of like talking about specific characterization or, okay, yeah.
Heavy translucency, the incisal edge, if there's any hues that I can't really capture in a great picture, but I want them to understand like this is the issue we're having when it's coming to shade matching. That's stuff that I'll specifically write in there.
Joy, I'm curious, for anterior cases that present that right in the anterior, how do you think about that?
One, I manage my patient's expectations from the jump. If you're only willing to do one tooth that's in the front, I'm like, well, I can only make it match so much. These are two different materials, your natural tooth versus what I have to work with at the lab. But I've had good results. I really do enjoy getting on and talking with the lab technicians and telling them I need it shaped this way, or this is what they want. So let's give them what they want, even if I don't quite agree with it. But I use Dandy for most of my crowns, or I scan it and then I show the patient too. And if I don't like it, then we just go back and forth. But
got it. I'm curious, have you ever had a patient in the room with one of those calls?
No.
I heard one the other day of like the patient and the clinician were both there. I was like, oh, that's high pressure.
I've sent the video to a patient saying like, I can explain it or this person can explain it. They know more what's going on.
And how did the patient react to that?
They liked it. They liked the thoroughness. They thought I was going above and beyond. When really, I just sent them the video I received.
Awesome. I love that.
Nice. Love that.
So I think once again with technology and modern dentistry, we can consolidate lab work because I don't think there's as much of a dichotomy between front of the mouth dentistry and back of the mouth dentistry as there may have been, where some years back, I absolutely had my go-to guy for making front teeth. And another issue is when my go-to guy didn't accept digital impressions and other laboratories did, you have to start to think, do I need to make a shift here because I'm going digital? And maybe my ceramist, still has techniques that are beautiful, but not as modern. And maybe the old craftsmanship, has to evolve as well.
I don't just want to see smooth porcelain that looks really bad, especially next to natural teeth. So it needs to look really lifelike. I really want it to mimic the teeth next door too. I don't just want a perfect Hollywood smile. I want it to be Mr. Jones's perfect smile.
Right. And when you're saying lining, you're also talking about the surface like texture and characterization?
There are so many nuances to making a tooth look like a tooth. And there are so many nuances that make a tooth not look like a tooth. So I think in terms of translucency, it's not only looking at the tooth from the front, but it's understanding how light can travel through that tooth rather than reflect off of that tooth. I think when it comes to surface texture, teeth are not that shiny. They have to get dulled down a little bit, and natural teeth are warmer, which is a fancy way of saying a little bit darker or higher in chroma towards the gingiva, where they're going to be cooler or lighter or less chroma towards the incisal edge. So it's not just the translucency, it's the color and the value that shines through. The value has to be neutral and balanced in the middle of the tooth, and that there still has to be a layer of ceramic on top to let that shine through. So, to mimic in an artificial material to match one tooth when you've got a pulp somewhere in there that has some kind of influence on the color. When there's dentin, when there's enamel, and then you've got, the pearlescent effect at the incisal edge. And where does that little blue come from with those dentinal feathers? So there's so many nuances. I would say the most important part is looking at the outline shape of a tooth. Going back to the very basics, the easiest way to ruin a tooth is to give it a bad outline form, and it'll be obvious.
Make it
So
thick.
make it too thick, too bulky, to lose the anatomical contours. So all of these factors have to be built in to making a beautiful tooth. Contact areas for proper looking, beautiful papilla. It all has to be emergence profiles so the tooth doesn't look lumpy at the gums.
Curious if there's anything that you look for or you're particular about on posteriors when it comes to aesthetics. I was like, look, I want it functional, but there's this thing that kind of bothers me. It doesn't always matter, but it bothers me in particular.
I love anatomy. If I get something back and it's got some solid anatomy, even if I know we're going to do a little bit of adjustment and we might lose some of that anatomy, I just love when I receive a crown and it's just that crisp anatomy that I'm looking and I see in the other teeth around it.
Something that looks like a tooth, not like a crown.
Yes.
Very cool.
I would say the opposite.
Really? Okay.
I would. Sometimes I get them back and they're really sharp and pointy and beautiful.
True.
And
I'm thinking
then-
more the dips, not the points.
Okay, the
Yes.
points. I had a patient, she's like, something sharp, like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And
I've had
kept
around this off, too.
feeling- I kept feeling around and I was like, ma'am, I don't see what you're talking about. It was just the anatomy in there that her teeth had been in her mouth for 75 years.
You want it to match. If the teeth around it are not like that, then yeah.
Oh, and so when she was describing sharpness, she felt the anatomy, and so that feels like a sharp sensation rather than a smooth.
Exactly.
Interesting.
I smoothed it out and I was like, try this out. She said, oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's interesting because some patients won't feel anything and some patients will
Feel
feel
everything.
everything. That proprioception that they get is and the same with the bite too. So it's up to us to get that proper. I think in the back of the mouth with the modern zirconia crowns that I've been getting from Dandy, even before we talk about, polychromatic and the newest, latest, greatest, a lot of times I put in these zirconia crowns. They are so shiny. I mean, they really, and I'm not saying too shiny, but they make cement cleanup super easy because they're slick. And I put them in and I go, that looks like a great tooth, So I think the consistency of the AI design and I think the materials, I think that the process has gotten to the point where, the A1, A2 color matches, dropping these teeth in the back of the mouth, minimal, if any, adjustments and looking at it and going, that tooth hides great.
Dr. Solomon, you've been talking a lot about digital dentistry and kind of the innovations that's happened to your practice. I actually wanted to open this up as a question to the group. I'm curious how digital dentistry has impacted how you practice dentistry in the past few years.
It's so much easier and more fun to have a digital practice. It's like cheating. And, the better the aesthetics get, the better the materials get, the better the techniques get, and even some new stuff that's coming down the line that we probably hardly know about yet.
Right.
At this table and at other tables, it's just brilliant because everything's happening so fast, and it makes it easier. That the scanning is a dental video game that we love to do. I'll pick up the scanner as well as anyone on my team, and then we talk about which new, latest, greatest scanner we like the best. Taking impressions is tedious and cumbersome, and I don't do it anymore, and I haven't done it in a lot of years. But it's we used to do this, and we used to take these impressions with goop in the mouth for 8 minutes and get a bubble and have to do it again. And now it's so much fun to do the scanning, to do the digital dentistry, to have things that fit more consistently and accurate, and being able to delegate so much of the process also.
Right. Dr. Joi, you were telling me earlier that it sounds like you've been digitizing a lot of your family's practice. Can you tell me about that process and experience?
It has been a trying experience, but it's been lovely. For the things that are working out, I love being able to show my father, hey, this is how I did it, come look. And he'll like it. And even working with patients, that way, if we're trying to solve a problem and they've been to all these dentists and nobody's been able to solve this problem for them, I'm like, can I try something? And then they'll trust me and they say yes. And then I get to get on, scan with my scanner, get the live preview or just the digital preview. and make changes as I want to. And be like, okay, my patient would like this. We try it in. And then it's a yes. Right now, I'm doing a case on a patient who had a big gap. And I was like, I want to put an extra tooth there. So I tried it in with a unilateral partial first. And he liked it. And he went away for a while. And then he came back and was like, okay, I'm ready for the bridge now. And so I cut it and I'm waiting to get it back. But I spoke with the lab tech. I showed him because they kept sending me 3 units. And I was like, this is 4 units. So we got on, we spoke about it, and it should be arriving soon. And I could not do that if I just took a physical impression and sent it off and said, okay, this is what I want, bye. I like having the control in each step.
I just love how interchangeable having a digital practice makes every step of the way. Like before, if you were to be taking traditional impressions and you go to a CE course and you learn something new or you want to buy something, think of everything involved and bringing something back and introducing it to your workflow. Where the idea of if you already have a digital workflow, if a new product comes out, if a smile simulator comes out, if a digital preview comes out, that is now something that you can easily drop into your workflow with changing nothing, and it enhances the patient experience and the doctor experience with no increased costs. No, you don't have to buy anything. It's just by having everything digital and ready for the innovation that's going to come, you're future-proofing yourself so that you're always going to be on the cutting edge if you invest in the digital technology at the very beginning.
If you ever into scenarios where you're trying to prep a patient for an Emax crown, you're like, oh wait, I can't get away with this. I need to go to Zirconia, which meant having to send it out instead of doing a chairside.
If something breaks, then I would always upgrade my material choice. I don't think I'm going to do the same thing expecting a different result. So that's when I would make something thicker, more robust, or go on to a different material choice. I'd have to look at the opposing dentition. Also, if you need more clearance and space that you couldn't get. But I think now with Zirconia, if you follow the minimal tolerances, I think Zirconia is strong enough. I've had very few Zirconia's crowns fracture, and when they have, they've been very thin, minimally invasive, biomimetric preps that almost look like they're too thin after they fracture.
Got it. Have you had any fracturing experiences with materials?
Not necessarily. It really is that second molar occlusion when you're just kind of like, this is just so tiny and I'm making it so short. But most of the times when I've had a pretty thin occlusal clearance for Zirconia, I'll end up more with a show through over time, which just goes to show how impressive someone's jaw is to be able to grind through that. I haven't had many fractures. I actually had a lot of fractures when I first purchased my practice and I was using a local lab. But I never know if that was me not understanding my occlusal clearance because I was taking physical impressions and didn't have the ability to physically see with the scanner my clearance level, or if that was the lab. I would have no idea to know.
Kara, have you had any fractures?
I've had a few.
Okay.
I think my patients are just really impressive. I tend to trend on this side of under reducing, and it's nice to have the tool, the clearance tool, to look and be like, oh girl, you can open that up a little bit more.
Have you ever used Zirconia for your anterior cases, or do you tend to stick with glass-based or any other work in the anterior?
I have, because a lot of my patients are partially edentulous, so we're making them partials, and I feel like if I'm going to do canines, I'm going to use them to hold my clasp, then I'd rather it be Zirconia.
Okay.
When I'm using PFC, is that considered Zirconia in the front? Because yes, I use that often, but I've only had 1 or 2 patients where I've used Zirconia, and it's an older person who brought me a picture of what they wanted to look like. The only way that was going to be able to be accomplished was with very opaque, very chiclet teeth. So I said, I know exactly what to give you.
Got it. I can see this particularly from the lab side. I'm curious to hear your experiences about this, but especially for restorations in general, there is usually this trade-off that you have to make between the cost of the restoration that you're buying from the lab and the quality that you're getting out as a result. I think Dr. Solomon, you made a very interesting point around how that gap has definitely shrunken over the years thanks to digital. But at least what we've observed is that the gap still can exist. There is a difference between a bad digital crown and a good digital crown, and then how someone characterizes that restoration afterwards. I'm curious when you, for interior and for posterior, frankly, how do you think about that cost quality trade-off, and what do you think through when you're like, okay, what kind of restoration, and frankly, how expensive a restoration am I going to use for this scenario?
I think there is much more of a cost quality trade-off for anterior teeth. If you're going to spend more money, you're going to get a more aesthetic crown. If you're using a very, very highly aesthetic lab, they know their worth and they know what they can produce, so they are going to charge it. With posterior teeth, the quality that you're looking for more so is strength. If you're getting a $50 zirconia crown made from a place that you really can't track, you have no way to really understand what that is made out of and whether or not you're going to get great margins, if you're going to get just the strength that you're looking for. So I think there is different things when you're talking about quality. So for anterior teeth, you're looking more for aesthetics. For posterior, you're looking more for physical strength, durability, how well it's going to see. Both things matter in both locations, but the trade-off is definitely there.
Yeah. And if we were to limit this even to just anteriors, obviously a monolithic zirconia has just a different price than something that's hand layered with feldspathic porcelain. How do you think about making that decision with your patients?
I would have it factor into the patient that I'm specifically looking at in treatment planning. If it's a young patient who's very highly aesthetic focused, then I am leaning more towards, yes, this is going to be more money, but it's absolutely going to result in a better outcome. Where if it's, I don't want to say an older man, but I feel like older men don't necessarily, they just want a tooth.
They want you.
If I'm doing a big smile makeover, it's different than if someone just happened to break a number 7 and they just want something to work.
How does the unit count change your decision making? Like doing social sixes versus just like, hey, I need to do a single match.
It's interesting because if you're doing a single match, having it match aesthetically and all of the characteristics that go into that matter so incredibly much. But then if you're doing the whole smile makeover, you want the patient to be able to walk out of the room and also say, they don't want to see it as I got my teeth done. So you want everything to also look very natural. So I think in both situations, you want incredible characterization and you want the anatomy and everything to be perfect, but kind of for different reasons.
Right. Makes sense.
Either way, you want it to blend.
Cost trade-off and right, the difference between an EMAX versus a PFZ versus a zirconia when you're thinking about anterior restorations.
Yeah. When I'm thinking about the anterior restorations, I want it to look really nice. So it's typically whatever I can do to get it look really nice within reason of price. So spending $300-$400 on one single unit, that's not really going to do it. But if we can get really good results with a cost-effective option, I'm going to do that for my patients.
And do you ever have scenarios where it's like really challenging patient? It's just like we gotta just bring in the big guns kind of thing, or what is that dynamic like?
We all have those patients.
We do.
Specific faces popping into mind right now.
They are. Like in my nightmares. No, not nightmares. If we get something back and I don't like it, I'll just tell them, this is not good enough for you. I want to redo this for you. And then, we just go up from there.
And take more like the partnership approach and preempt them from being like, I don't like this. It's like, no, you're not going to like it. Just have the conversation.
Sometimes I ask the patients, like, I might not love it, but I hand them the mirror. I'm like, what do you think? And if they're into it, that'll work. Sometimes I ask patients to try it. I'm like, will you try this out for me? Come back if you hate it. And 9 times out of 10, they like it after. Yeah,
all the same answers. I think we all have these patients that sometimes can be very particular, and sometimes porcelain veneer breaks and it's not one that we made and we have to match it. So now we're matching not only an actual tooth, but we're matching someone else's dentistry. And sometimes that's slam dunk if it's routine dentistry. But if somebody had a characterized tooth, then you have to somehow want to replicate these pleasing imperfections that are the characterizations that make teeth look natural. So it's not having a smile that's too perfect. It's having a smile that has all the attractive
Perfect enough.
features. Yeah. Too perfect looks fake.
Yeah.
So we need these pleasing imperfections sort of built in. And I think that's what we're paying for sometimes is somebody that's not going to make perfect teeth, but then are going to make natural teeth. I think is really the nuance is making natural teeth. So somebody thinks that they have a date with a beautiful person, not with somebody that's got a great dentist.
Yeah.
Nice toilet bowl white teeth. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we want to think that you've got a beautiful genetic smile, and that's what I want to
born that
help
way.
create for you, rather than, you know, you've got a good dentist.
Yeah. I'm curious, would you rather have a patient present to match a single central, or would you rather do a social six?
Matching a single central incisor is the most challenging thing in cosmetic dentistry. And there are master ceramists that can do that, and they can do it with almost any tooth. But this is when there's porcelain mapping and layering, and not everyone can do that. And in a modern world, this is going to become a lost art, I think, to fill the gap of what is dentistry and what is artistry, and what is a technician and who is an artist, and to bring those together where the science and the art synthesize and become one. And that's what looks beautiful and natural. So when we want to replicate nature, that's what we're looking for.
If I were to call you and say like, hey, figured something out, I'm able to give you monolithic zirconia, but it looks like porcelain. Obviously, and it's all the same price. Obviously, it sounds good. I'm curious what other reactions or questions you'd have if someone were to tell you that.
I think seeing is believing.
Yeah.
You're like, sure you do.
I'd be like, what's the catch?
Yeah. Exactly.
I would say we've been waiting for this. Yeah, it's about time because it's such an evolution of the materials. You know, where Emax is a strong material, maybe not as strong. It's an aesthetic material, maybe not as aesthetic as some of the other. Zirconia has come online and gotten a lot better, and different companies are doing different things with trying to make it more aesthetic. So of course it's going to keep getting better and better, and it's going to become more systematized.
Actually curious, if I would describe that product, do you think there are still clinical scenarios where you would want to still use porcelain instead? Either for like, hey, patient's a real bruxer, or I have enough clearance, I don't want this to be zirconia all the way through, or not really?
Are you saying...
Is there any scenario where it's like, hey, if I gave you a monolithic zirconia that looked like porcelain, are there any scenarios where you'd still ask for porcelain?
If I didn't truly believe it looked like Emax, but I would say other than that, not necessarily. If someone's a severe bruxer, I'm typically going to use zirconia and wait for them to break it. And if they break it, then we'll figure something else out. But that would be my go-to if that was an option.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a reason not to.
That's what we're hoping for here. Okay, let me pull these out here. So just to explain the labeling here, standard zirconia crown is, I think, the kind of zirconia product that you would get today from Dandy. What we have here is a boutique. These are crowns that we secret chopped that are around $350. To your point, master ceramist. However, it's interesting. This is monolithic zirconia, just all hand painted, hand layered. This right here is our newest product. This is what we're calling our polychromatic crowns. And you want to get closer, you're welcome to. Polychromatic crowns, what you're seeing there is not something that is hand stained, but digitally applied. So someone in design software actually digitally stained this tooth, and then using a process that we've developed, actually applied that characterization right onto the tooth without using a brush. So I'm curious what you guys think about the aesthetic differences between these.
It's interesting.
Give me the good and the bad.
No, I think it is one of those seeing is believing. You have to really kind of look at it and see how.
Too good to be true.
I mean, it looks translucent, but it's
that
obviously
is,
not. It just looks translucent.
It's good. She's onto something.
is it colored zirconia or is it stain within it?
So that middle section, that polychromatic stain, that is, we built essentially our own novel staining technology that allows us to go and digitally design. Essentially, we have the digital equivalent of Photoshop for teeth that we've built that you can characterize and digitally stain. And then we have a digital application technique. So there's essentially a cell that we've developed where we have monochromatic, actually quite opaque zirconia. It's funny, you can tell when you look on the intaglio of that crown, it looks very different than the intaglio of the other two. That's because that actually starts out as a very light shade, single color. It's like a kind of a beige canvas. And then we digitally apply all of that characterization right on. Whereas in order to achieve similar aesthetics, right, that's what that master technician is doing down on the left. They actually have to use a multi-layer pre-colored zirconia, and then they will hand characterize maybe a little bit of blue and gray just on the incisal. Whereas this, even that gradient that you're seeing going from gingival to incisal, if you were to look at that crown in its raw state, it would be a single color.
Okay, let's take a look at these
Do yours.
these magic materials and magic materials that you can scan something and you can mill something and that you can have all the qualities that we've ever wanted and it fits. And the way that we talked about earlier is that something that would have to be custom made that can then be mass produced.
Yeah.
And instead of going to a tailor and getting measured, you're going to a tailor and you're getting like lasered when you walk in and you're picking out, well, I want this material and this material, and the suit comes out and it's handed to you and it fits, because now we can mass produce something and custom make it at the same time.
To me, this is the world of like making true biomimetic actually accessible and not having to force a trade-off of some kind. So it is possible to make crowns that beautiful today, right? That's what the secret chopper on the right-hand side is. There's just maybe 1,000 people in the United States that can make it, maybe 10,000 in the world. It is fundamentally a very hard to access product.
And it's decreasing.
Yeah.
People aren't learning it anymore.
Exactly.
We're outsourcing it to like Colombia, Brazil.
100%. And that's just like, there's just not infinite technicians. Well, if there were, we wouldn't be doing this. Yeah, this is we're really excited to bring this to clinicians and patients. I think this is making biomimetic dentistry accessible.
So these are milled.
These are milled.
And these are milled from a monochromatic block, not a polychromatic block.
Yeah.
That they're positioned in.
Yeah.
And then this is the stain, the characterization is applied digitally, robotically.
Yeah.
So it won't rub off.
So nobody has to layer. And
we did enough testing. That was actually our first thought when we did this.
Looks good now.
Yeah. No, we covered our bases there.
So we're not starting with a coping here and building up. We're actually
that is
adding a stain type. It's a thin layer of stain, and then there's more something going on top of that to give it the translucency. So it's really translucent instead of the fake translucent.
This is funny. This is the illusion of translucency, but it's crazy what you can do with color to give it the same illusion as this. This is real translucency, obviously with characterization to make it look natural. But it's actually kind of shocking what you can do with color. A lot of clinicians, when they think about digital dentistry, even today, I think that you'll hear a lot of people acknowledge that while it's an efficient workflow, very frequently you can't get great cosmetic outcomes with these workflows. I'm curious what you guys think about that statement, especially given what you see here with polychromatic stain.
I think that used to be the standard. When digital dentistry just came out and milling just came out, it really is. We were so excited with the idea that this could even be a possibility. The idea of aesthetics was not exactly at the forefront. It was just like, this is possible. And this feels kind of like the precipice of where that all has come to. We are finally looking at a digital product that looks hand painted. So yeah, I feel like there is not necessarily a trade-off between aesthetics and efficient digital workflow at this point.
I love living in this digital age, especially for dentistry. Like, I didn't even have to do with half the stuff you did, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I've been practicing for 4 years. And we learned how to scan in school.
Yeah.
But some of those cases that I get back, they didn't look like this. Mm-hmm. They didn't look like this by far. And from what I'm seeing in front of me, it looks very promising. I'm excited to give it a try.
Okay, I want to take it just one step further, which is, and I want to talk about second molars, and I want to talk about that gap on the front crown, but for the sake of this, I want to talk about it a little bit deeper, which is that if we provide care and wellness for people, and this is another place where all this is going, is the idea of making it easier. And like I said earlier, digital dentistry is easier. So you need to prep teeth. But I can sit down with a patient and I can scan. I can have provisionals come back or matrices come back, and I can prepare the teeth and I can scan again. And I can have beautiful dentistry come back that can be more economical. And it can be more efficient. And when we talk about the economy of the time again, everything is more efficient, which means I can offer services to more people. I could care for more people. I could change more lives, and I could do it in a more accessible, an easier path for the dentist and for the patient at a different economic price point. So maybe the expensive cosmetic dentist could start to care for more of the masses at a more economical price point because of technology like this.
Like making cosmetic dentistry a standard of care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the standard of care shouldn't be outpriced.
Very well said. Thank you for coming out to New York. Really appreciate your time. It was great hearing about how your clinical workflows have been impacted by digital so far and your experiences with Dandy to date. Really excited to get this in your hands and see what more we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.